A new era is upon us. Pulse has taken the world by storm as the leading Web3 social media. Beyond current features like casting, tipping, inscription trading, and earning, it's now elevating to the next level on-chain.
Soil, a fully regulated, seamless link between traditional finance and the digital crypto world, offering secure returns fully backed by tangible, real-world assets.
The Credify testnet is live, so head on over to demo.credify.finance to see how you can effortlessly experiment with autonomous earning, NFT corporate bonds, Credi and X-Credi utilities, and Module X.
Good afternoon, everyone. BC Richfield here, coming to you live from London. It's just gone a couple of minutes past midday here in the UK, making it a couple of minutes past 11 a.m. UTC. So a big shout out to everybody joining the stream live today. We are using a little bit of new software today to try and bring you some super crisp charts. So please do let me know if there's any issues with the sounds. Good morning, Erica, Craig. Congratulations and commiserations on the promotion, mate. Although that is a good thing, but obviously you're going to have to be even sneakier now to get into these meetings in the middle of the day. So big shout out to all of you guys. Can you hear me okay? Can you see everything all right? If you can just let me know in the chat, that would be most appreciated, just so that we can see and make sure that I'm not just blithering away to myself, which we all know I can do from time to time. Let me just pop this in the chat as well. All good, all good. That's what we want to hear, Craigie boy. All clear, lovely, jubbly. Thank you very much. So, look, we're here for Alt Request Wednesday. Lee, thank you, mate. Thank you very much. We're here for Alt Request Wednesday. So, yeah, big congratulations, Craigie boy. Has anybody got any alts they would like me to take a look at? We're going to do a really quick, punchy 30-minute show today, right? We're going to finish it about 12:30. And we are just going to dive in and just cover anything that you guys have got. We're going to focus on the higher time frames as well, right? But while we're kind of picking some winners there, get my notepad ready. Good morning, Simon. Good to have you with us, mate. Ready for your suggestions. So while you're doing that, I'm going to throw you through my thought process on Bitcoin. Obviously, this was a key level. We've been very vocal about this for a while at 69,000 flat here on Femex. And the reason for that is because, look, we had this deviation above, price came back underneath. Now, at the same time, I knew that this was going to get people very bearish, right? But that's why it's always important to zoom out a bit, right? Because look at this. Look at this run up that we had, yeah? Massive, massive expansion, small correction. This consolidation led for the next pump. Now, this is the consolidation that we're looking for, to see a break and a hold above this level to really push things on. And I've been saying this for a while now. We were bearish when we got back under here. So we had a few weeks of bearish action down. Where were we targeting? This fair value gap down here. We can see price did something similar back here when we had this expansion, price consolidated. You know, people do typically just get a little bit frustrated in these situations, right? And that can be quite good, you know, quite good for us, right? Because it allows us to be patient and then pick these areas. I've absolutely got them on board for you there, Erica. RNDR and near. We'll take a look in a moment. But look, you know, in an ideal world, you'd like to see some of a deeper correction in these moves, right? Normally to around about 50%. Look at this big gap down here. But you don't always get them. You know, when you're bullish and market structure is bullish, then make sure that, you know, you're making an allowance for that. If you do get a deeper correction, great. But if not, then make sure you're in these areas, you know, looking for your setups, looking for these type of patterns where, you know, you can see these obvious manipulation legs, right? And then on the manipulation legs, you're then looking for a move back above that high that swept the low. And then some kind of corrective move down to kind of position yourselves in and trade it higher. Now, this would obviously be on a lower time frame, but that's what we'd be looking for in there, in the same way that we looked for that in here. All right. So to give you an example, if we go down to say a 4-hour chart, yeah, what are we looking for? To give you a real-time example of this pattern, right? You're looking for these moves, right? You're looking for these manipulations. Yeah, you're reacting in a 4-hour bullish gap. You swept and cleared out a load of liquidity, right? So in doing so, price deviates, gets back above and shows strength. You can wait for that shift in structure, which we get here. All right, and then again, if you're looking at this from a perspective of your 50%, you want to be looking for the expansion leg higher, and then you can target those gaps that sit down here, all right, in the lower 50%, which would be considered discount, all right? So buyers in a discount favoring sellers in a premium. So just to give you, you know, a real example of how that looks. Now, obviously moving back to the higher time frame, hey, Ricky, good to see you. We might visit 65, 66. Yeah, I mean, look, I think my current thinking on this is that, you know, we're bullish until proven otherwise. This is a very high time frame, of course. But as we look at this in here, right, what we've done is we've reacted. This is a really, really nice, strong reaction, right? But now we've kind of had this expansion higher. I think, look, we've taken this internal higher here, okay? So that for me is of interest, because then I'm saying to myself, okay, we do have, if you really, really kind of zoom in here, just a slither of a gap here, right, on a weekly scale. So for me, I'm saying, okay, well, price could easily correct kind of back down to that, right? Ignore this box for the moment. We'll look at that when we drop to the daily. So price could be correcting back down to this. Again, on a weekly scale, I want to see price really establish itself above here and also above here, yeah? We saw price wick up, price gets absorbed, comes back down, makes another attempt at it here. Ultimately, this looks like a really good go candle here with the long downside wick. Then when we close below this in here, changed our state of delivery, setting this as a bearish order block. Then to me, it became pretty obvious price was then looking for liquidity lower down, either below this low or ultimately within this gap. So to get a bit more granular, let's take a look at that. Chill out, my friend. Absolutely. Let's have a look at SHIB and INJ as well. Yeah, injective. This is something that our fundamental team, especially our lead, Chris, has been really kind of on for quite a while. Yeah, great thing about having these brilliant teams of people around you is that they do keep you up on the narrative. Someone like me, for example, who's much more of a price action trader, love kind of overlaying those fundamentals and technicals together. And Injective is one of those projects that just came together so seamlessly. So looking at this level here, right, you can just see how price is kind of sticking around it. Yeah, it's not making anything decisive above it. Having these corrective moves down, refuel on liquidity, move higher, okay? So this is our weekly gap, and I think that this could be the draw on price at the moment, all right? That along with this low. Yeah, so this low here, which is sat down at 62,286. However, while we're holding this bullish gap here, right? So bullish gap, because it's the gap between these candles here and here. Then as the bodies are holding these, you can see that they're being respected. What I'd really want to see for some confirmation we're going lower on this time frame is a daily close below here. Yeah. Then, you know, I would be really, really confident the price is coming down to seek liquidity lower down here and here. Should we fail them? Well, then we have a bullish fair value gap down here. And once again, you know, these kind of things gets people a little bit panicky, right? People see this and they're like, oh my goodness, you know, price is coming down. I'm just going to get rid of this for a second, guys, so it doesn't get in the way. Also overlays this order block. So whenever you see these kind of confluences on the chart, it always gives you that little bit of extra confidence. So this consolidation here that led to the expansion, yeah, what did price do? Came and tested the top of this order block perfectly before expanding. Then we're saying we've left this gap, so we've displaced above this high. Now, we never revisited this, okay? We revisited the order block. My expectation was for price to dip a little bit lower, but when it's bullish, you know, price does really love to run hot in crypto. So we want to see this held at the moment. As long as we hold this, we could easily sweep below it and close back within, as we did here and here. Holding this, still bullish. If not, and we are looking to get a deeper correction, then actually really not against that. If we looked at our kind of dealing range here, yeah, so the entire leg up since we changed structure, then we can see here that higher, low, higher, high, etc. Right? So then as we've moved up, look how this sits beautifully down in this lower 50%. Yeah, so it's starting to stack up to me a little bit that we might get that kind of deeper correction down here, get everybody super bearish. Yeah, kind of do something like this. People think, okay, we're recovering here, then we don't quite get that. Price kind of comes down into here, really gets everybody bearish before price then rips. How often do we see that? Okay, so the key thing for me here is having a plan to trade it both ways. And for this one, I'm looking for this to hold. I'm looking for longs. If we close below this, then I'm looking for short setups. What does that look like on the 4 hour? Well, actually, look at this on the 4 hour, right? We can see these really long down tail wicks, right? Showing the absorption from buyers. We've swept a low here. But again, ultimately, price is just kind of rejecting. I'll do this in red so it stands out a bit more. Rejecting from this bearish fair value gap here. So again, while we're below this, we're still within this bullish gap here. But I think, look, if we kind of come down and get down here and set a bearish gap here, looking for retracements to that to go lower would make a lot of sense to me. Also, if we get a 4 hour close above this, inverting it, then I think, that's the time that we could get some early go signals on that. So let's take a look. Yeah, thank you, Erica. Please do smash the like button, guys, if you're enjoying the content. It does help us out and also allows the algorithm to let people find us if they're looking for this kind of content. So let's take a look at the first of our suggestions, shall we, which was RNDR. Right, let's see where we are with RNDR. Oh, okay, so we've done a little bit of TA on this, obviously, recently as well. So, you know what, let me just get rid of this for a moment. We'll put this in a group so we can look at it again later. Always good to review what's happened previously. But it's always nice to start with a clean chart. I find it just really gives you a nice kind of clean perspective on things. So I'm always saying to myself, okay, what's the most recent thing that price has done? Price came along and took out these relative equal highs here, all right? Whenever you see relative equal highs, especially if they're equal highs or lows, they make really, really good liquidity targets, right? And then also when you get there, they make really, really good points to spot for reversals as well. So what's price really doing here on a weekly? So we've swept liquidity above this high, and then price has kind of seen a rejection wick, which is down here. So now we're kind of looking across to here. We're saying, okay, well, where are our further targets as we move into this? And we can see we've got a swing low down here on a weekly basis, which is quite some way away. Of course, we're looking at that 6.8459, all right? We don't really have any gaps here, right? So if I was looking at this on a weekly scale, I'd be saying, okay, well, this is probably the key area here, this change in delivery here where we're in this downtrend, right? Then we get this bearish candle print here, and we get the bullish close above it, also an engulfing candle. That to me has some significance. So I'd like to see if price kind of gets down to this area here, what kind of reaction that we get. Now, obviously, we're talking a long way away on a weekly scale. So let's kind of put that into daily context and then look at how we can look at it on the 4 hour. Now, over here, we can see this price has swept this high, come back down. And I mean, look at this collection of lows that we've got down here, right? So all of those relative equal lows down there have all been cleaned out now. And that's what's led to this nice little resurgence here. So on a daily scale, you can see price actually looks a lot different here. It looks like we're coming up kind of printing this, I'm not a massive user of patterns, as you guys will know, but kind of printing this bull flag type formation, all right? I know that's obviously very, very poorly drawn, so let me do that properly. But that's the kind of thing that we would look at here. When you see price compressing into these wedges, all right, then price is normally compressing down and getting ready to pop. We never know which way, but we can obviously use other factors to determine that. Now, when we're talking about recency here, we can see price was swept out, came back down, took these highs, found liquidity resting below these lows. Now we can see price is just being held under this bearish gap here. All right, so once again, on a daily scale, this is quite clear for me. I'm looking for downside targets here, which is 9.8585, and then also here before we kind of work our way down ultimately towards this order block here on the weekly scale, which we don't have to do. But what I also like about that is that we've got this bullish gap under here as well, and you can see price kind of being sandwiched between these two areas at the moment. Daily close above here, and we target the highs up here. Whilst we get continuation under here, I think then maybe we kind of do look to move a little bit lower and take out some liquidity here before a potential recovery. Now, looking at that here on the 4 hour, What does that look like? Well, we can see 4 hours kind of stepped in quite bullish here, and I do like this move higher, right? Whenever we see price displace above a high, so just to draw that one in here, and we've obviously come into this one here as well, we can see with both of these, look at the momentum that's taken price up here. Now, what's interesting about that and what's quite key is that we've displaced and left this gap, right? And we can see that price now is reacting nicely with this 4 hour gap, which I'll just label up here as our H4. So the way that we would play this, and I do prefer to kind of trade these, this has kind of started to take off in London here, in the London session, but I do like to trade these things within the New York AM session. That's my kind of preference. But looking at this here and seeing this reaction, this is exactly what you'd look for. You'd look for this change in state of delivery. You'd look for this expansion move higher. Yes, we are coming into a bearish gap here, but ultimately we would be triggering below it. So this is the area here that we would kind of jump on the charts. To give you an example, in London this morning, you would look at this move, right? And this is where you would want to be a buyer, okay? Again, look at how price just dives into here, right? Look how liquidity starts to build. You see a lot less gapping as the traditional market hours open. But this kind of reaction here, look at the downside wicks, yeah? Look at how price comes up. We get that strong move higher. And in doing so, we create this internal high, which we sweep. And then again, if we apply our 50% here and we're looking for that gap, I'll do it again in green just so it stands out a bit more. You know, this is where we could start to be involved. Or again, it all depends on your entry method, right? But you ideally want to see sweeps of lows, price driving into these higher time frame gaps. And then this is where you're looking for these kind of moves away. So at the moment on this time frame, certainly, and it depends where you're looking to position yourselves. Like I say, on a daily, I'd want to see a close above the daily FVG here. On the 4 hour, I think I'd be happier to be a little bit riskier with it, right? You know, and by that I mean, if I'm looking at this here and saying, okay, this displacement leg down here, if we're using this as our range, right, then we can see here we're still favoring buyers. There's a nice gap up here, this nice kind of bearish gap. So looking at this on a 4 hour perspective, you know, taking positions in here and looking to trade this up to this gap would certainly make sense, all right? So let's have a look. It's near. Okay, we're going to rip through this. We got 11 minutes left. So going to take a look here. Okay, GDH FD. Thank you very much for your comment, mate. And that's very kind of you to say. I'll absolutely take a look at that later on once the stream has concluded. But if you want to reach out at all, please do feel free. You can grab me. Best way on my Twitter handle, BC_Richfield. So near, let's take a look what's going on with near, shall we? Wow, this thing is super strong. Joe C, good morning, mate. So look, this is strong. And this is what I was talking about with displacement right now. Look, see how when we get this high, also how these highs, like you see these, you know, abnormal wicks, these longer wicks. When price comes, when you see this big displacement through it, these wicks often become really good kind of support and resistance flip areas, right? So when price comes back into this, these are often a really good place to look for buyers because you've got clear invalidation. Also, if price really rips through and closes below this, then you can start targeting lows lower down. So we had this beautiful displacement above here. Price continues to hold this bullish gap. But you know what I'll do for the rest of the stream? I'll do the bullish gaps on the higher time frames in my typical grey, but I'll keep the ones on the lower time frames in the green so they stand out a bit more. Now we've had this bullish reaction here. We've respected this gap, meaning that we expect price to move higher. Now, we obviously hit this internal high here, and what we'll notice is that we left relative equal highs here as well in this one when that candle closed. So they often really, really love to be ran. Now, again, very, very similar to what we saw with some of our previous TA, we've created this order block here, or certainly, you know, this consolidation as prices closed above it. So this is the area that I'm looking to hold here. We start closing below this, then I think we purge lower. Again, remembering, guys, that's on a weekly scale, right? So that is, you know, a very high time frame. So now kind of looking on to where we are, again, we can kind of see how we can overlay the daily TA with the weekly to kind of build a decent picture. So our daily gap here, I'll just put a D on that so you guys understand that that's the daily one when we move lower, and that's the weekly. Now, if we're holding this weekly order block, you can see we've just kind of dipped into it and we're holding this daily gap. Again, while we hold this, I'm favoring bullish setups, okay? So I'd be targeting this first of all, which is at 8.384. right? And then ultimately this high above it here. But let's kind of deal with what we've got in front of us first, which is this one. This one won't become a high until the daily close, right? Now, this could be an interesting trade though, right? Because price could sell off today. If we see an aggressive sell-off dip down into here, I certainly wouldn't look on the lower time frames. If we get the triggers, I would consider intraday shorts here. And I'll tell you as for why. Because a deeper purge into this, price coming down to sweep this key low here, which is within a gap, and then recover and close within it, is a move that we see quite regularly. They're designed in their nature to catch people offside, to get people shorting here, because we've had this consolidation. People will see it as a breakdown, just to take out liquidity resting here. Major players, institutional buyers, etc., can fill larger sums of orders there with, when you trigger these stop losses, they become market sell orders, right? And that just allows people to gobble up that liquidity and send the market the other way. We could obviously see the same here. We could see price run up, grab liquidity here and come down, which is why we look at the reactions at the highs and lows. So when we took out this high, we formed this gap, meaning we displaced above it. So the expectation is for price to take the liquidity above the high and then return to a gap in order to fill it, all right, to make it efficient. Look at this high. Price ran up, took out this high, right? And then we returned into this gap first of all. We failed this gap. So our expectation then is that we're seeking liquidity lower. And lo and behold, we get this beautiful bullish gap down here, which we can see supported price really well. And again, we get this low set within that gap. That would be an intermediate term low if you're somebody that's studied Michael's concepts or ICT. Now, while we're holding that, if we look at that on the 4 hour, all right, we can see here that we're kind of building this nice liquidity above. We've got an untapped high here, untapped high here. So I think actually while we're in here, moving into the New York session now on the lower time frames, I think this looks like it could be setting itself up for a nice recovery. So as long as we hold here, then I'm bullish on near and would be favoring long setups. Okay, so now we're going to take a little look at SHIB, our old friend SHIB. Absolutely just smashing along with other meme coins at the moment. Let's find out where we'll take a look at you, my friend. Let's take a look on our friend Bybit, shall we? Let's look at the spot contracts. Not sure there's too well. There will be a lot of people over leveraging this, but especially with your meme coins and stuff, these narratives can be so dangerous to over leverage yourself with. We can see how far we've got to go to the all-time high. Can also see this beautiful curve here that actually flattens out, right, a lot more at this stage. So you see how you get that kind of more extreme drop here, right? Then price starts to flatten out along here, gets really flat here, and then obviously, as is quite commonplace with this, we get a real big pump. So on a weekly scale, again, what have we done? We displaced, we've taken liquidity above all of these highs, really gobbled it up, come into here, currently kind of being held in this gap here. But I'm more interested in what's happening on the buy side of the curve, okay? And I'll tell you as for why, because with a strong breakout like this, you really want to respect the fact that price is still bullish here. Now, we can see what happened. Price had this just abnormal rip over the few weeks here, which started in Feb, kind of set this high. Now we've had this big corrective move down. That's healthy for trends, guys. I know people kind of lose sight of that high time frame from time to time, and kind of it worries them a little bit. But actually, I think it's absolutely fine, and it's really healthy. So as we're looking at this here on a weekly scale, look, we can't be anything but bullish here. Big breakout, retest of a bullish gap. Price is now moving ahead and has changed its state of delivery, or is in the process of changing its state of delivery, because we would require a close above this candle's body here, which is this current week. So looking for a bit more granularity, we move this down to our daily. We can see how we had this breakdown here. Then price sets this failure swing here, which is a beautiful thing to see. And then we know we've got our high, higher low. We then take out this high here, so we're fully in market structure. Heaven, if you're a bull, higher highs, higher lows being set all the way through here. So now the big question is, where are we going from here? Because we've seen a rejection at this high, an initial rejection, by the way, on a daily basis. I would actually love to see this daily candle close where it is, giving us a little gap underneath, so the price can come back down into this gap, find support, and then continue up. Targets, if we should do that, I'd be looking at these equal highs here, which we haven't quite run yet. We can see those, just going to label them up. All right, and then correction down into here, find some buys in here, and then really have a good rip. Again, if we do set this gap and price closes below it, that's when I would be saying, okay, I think we're going to start taking out some of these lows, because something that we can see here are all of these beautiful lows starting to build up. All right. Now, again, this isn't to just be bearish, right? It's just I want to, always be aware of where my liquidity is resting, right? So this is going to tweak my OCD because I forgot to do the third one. So we could see that. We close below here. I think we start to come and take these out, right? Might mean we get a deeper purge into this weekly gap. Ultimately, we've got a lot of liquidity targets down here that can reverse. Now, if price does come back and fill this gap here, yeah, then we kind of lack targets more. So we would be looking down towards this candle here, right? And again, keeping it in really, really simple terms, not for you guys, for myself, I always try and kind of decant the market down into the most simple form it can be considered. We can see, look, we had this down close candle, price disrespected that by closing above it, right? See, these down close candles didn't get closed above until here. Then when it closed above, what happened? We got continuation to the next high. It's a sign that price is ready to seek liquidity further. Closed above this here, continued on to this high. Closed above these here and continued on to this high, right? That's what we're looking for in principle. Of course, it doesn't work all the time. Nothing in trading does, but it's a very, very good principle or kind of way to view the markets. So where are we right now? If this is the kind of thing we're looking for, then price is shaping itself up quite nicely, right? We can see we're kind of getting that initial rejection. Now, for our lower time frame traders, your intraday traders out there, people like myself, then this is really the area that's got my interest at the moment. Price coming up, taking this high, correcting down. I want to see price hold this gap on the 4 hour, in which case I'm then targeting this higher, and then our higher time frame equal highs up here, which are at 0.0000295514. All right. But close below this again. I know I can sound like a broken record. Then I would intraday favor trades down to here, and then ultimately lower down should we get it. All right. And then we're going to close up today, guys, just by looking at Injective. Raphael, hello, my friend. Okay, let's pop a look at this and see if we got. All right, so let's look. We'll leave this on here for a second so we can take a look at that, because it's not really that obtrusive in what we're looking at. These are obviously slightly lower time frames. So what I'll do is just quickly hide them, and then we get them back on the chart. Now, key thing here is we have this slither of a gap on a weekly scale, right, that we're looking for, because price is very much bearish here on a weekly scale. We can see this, after this big drop, take out these key lows, displaced below them, leaving this gap, meaning that I'm currently favoring bullish price action from INJ while we kind of come up to look to fill this gap. Again, closing above it, and I think this thing can absolutely rip. Getting up to it, though, until we close above it, this will be a really, really good place for potential short trades, right? So we need to see the strength and conviction of the market here to see if that is respected. Now, let me get that other TA on there, and let's see what we were looking at previously. So as we can see on here, we established the equal highs above. This is what I really liked about this move. It's saying exactly the same things as I said previously. We can see the displacement here when price closed above this high. All right, we would have been looking at this, I would imagine, on Monday, or possibly Wednesday last week, actually, when we drew this in. Now, you can see this in crypto a lot, but I don't like the way this closed underneath. I would have expected this to hold in truth before price went up. Ultimately, price ended up getting supported by this order block here. Yeah, we can see this down candle, especially when you see a large expansion beyond something like this. These become really significant because, think about this as where the buyers are, yeah, or where the sellers got caught offside. So imagine some big players are thinking this is going down here, and they see this rip, might be holding through the drawdown, doing everything in their power to get price down to this level. What happens when you get down to this level? You mitigate, okay, meaning that you then say, okay, maybe I was wrong on the long. I'll just get rid of those positions, get out at a scratch or a very small loss and reconsider. That positioning here can cause these kind of, pumps that come off the back of it. However, this didn't get held. It did invert. Now, what I don't like to see when we have a fair value gap inversion, so an inversion is just when price closes below a bullish gap, or if price closes above a bearish gap. I'll give you an example of one down here. I absolutely love these patterns because they just, this should be offering a rejection, this gap. It doesn't. Price closes above, retest it. What do I always say to you when price kind of does that? Then it's seeking the next liquidity, and the next liquidity was this high. We can see how price, had a nice pump towards that. So with this, what you don't want to see is price come up and then just kind of come up and start closing back within it, and especially below it. This to me is definitely a sign of weakness with this gap. And it's not something now that I'm really concerning myself with that much. I'm looking much more at this order block, and then I'm also looking at this gap, which is capping the market at the moment. All right, so this is a bearish gap. And what we want to see is a close above that on a daily scale, and then price can start hunting down this high, first of all, which was at 28.981. And then we want to close above here and make a move to that. While we kind of keep getting rejected it here, then actually I'd still remain as favoring shorts here, all right? Just for me, for my setup, but obviously super aware that we are kind of holding a bullish structure here. So as we look at the 4 hour, we can see that 4 hours kind of stole that march on us, just as I've been talking about here, looking at these fair value gap inversions, which we often see at the base of these moves. Okay, what happened? Price came down, had a rejection here. Now, this is where it's really key for me, and why I would have expected this, or not expected it, but had a higher probability towards this inverting, is the fact that we didn't take any kind of liquidity from the lows. Yeah, none of these lows would have had to have taken it here. So when we set that and immediately came back up within it, look, long downside wick here showing buyers, bullish engulfing here. Then when we closed above this here, then what you want to do is then look at this and start targeting the next liquidity, which is typically the next swing high. We've also taken out this high, which is an intermediate term high because it's within this gap. So what's the expectation now? Well, as I say, corrections are healthy. So to see price come back down, maybe we kind of look towards this volume imbalance here, or even ideally this fair value gap here. All right, which, because we've got a lot going on there, I'll do that in green, and this one as well. So they're the areas here I'd be looking for price to correct down. Now, price could just show continued strength here and really, really rip. But for me, it's a little bit high in this move to get a good risk to reward play here. All right. Now, just to show you quickly, if I really did want to get involved in that kind of play, and I really had the conviction that I thought price was looking to move a lot higher, then I would be looking, first of all, for some displacement in this move higher. We can see there's no gaps here, so this seems a little bit weak to me. But this here provides a really good line in the sand, right? Bearish block here, we get a close above here, target this first, and then ultimately price is higher up. This red box here symbolizes Asia's range. We haven't swept the low from that, but look how often when we sweep the high, yeah, we get that displacement below. Again, broken record time for you all, but inverting these gaps, meaning in this case, we had this bullish gap, failed to hold. So that holds there. And then again, look at this beautiful low resistance liquidity here that we targeted on the way down. Now price has seen this recovery here. Again, probably just, I would have expected this low to be run. In truth, I don't believe that it was. No, it wasn't. So that's left that there. Price does love to come and take out these failure swings here. All right, guys. So while we've kind of got these lows building here as well, not high probabilities, but I would say I'd be thinking that price could really come down and run these and then look to target one of our higher time frame bullish gaps here for continuation. All right, guys. So run a few minutes over, but hopefully that's kind of covered everything for you. Just want to finish up taking a quick look at our economic calendar as well, because we know these things can kind of come over into the crypto markets with it being a risk asset. It's Wednesday 29th today, meaning that we have news for the Aussie dollar market and also for the euro. So that's decent. Normally it's the US equity market news that we look for, the US news, that affects the equity markets that then slams into crypto as well. And for that, be careful tomorrow, Thursday. We've got preliminary GDP Q-on-Q, unemployment claims, and pending home sales month on month as well. All can have their nice effects on the market. All right, guys. So look, wishing you all a fantastic week ahead. I'll catch the rest of you legends around the nest. You can follow me, BC_Richfield on Twitter, if you have any questions. And yeah, it's been fantastic to be live with you all. Wishing you all a great week ahead. And